My name is Diana Biruk and I'm a food and still life photographer here in New York City.
My name is Victor Bonano. I'm a chef in New York and I make pop-up dinners.
I am originally from Belarus and I came to the US about 13 years ago. I am a journalist by trade and I worked as a journalist back home, but when I came to this country, I started working as a waitress for over 7 years after switching to photography.
I'm originally from Puerto Rico, and when the time for me came to decide what I was going to do with my life, I decided to go to be a chef since I had some different influence from my family part. And then I started studying culinary arts and working in the kitchen, building my way up.
Working in restaurant industry kinda was the reason why I got into food photography. I saw lots of similarities with how I was a writer. I always found stories of people who work in restaurants quite fascinating. I always wanted to tell them.
So one of the inspirations of me getting into the kitchen was my grandmother. She was like a person who was like always in the kitchen and cooking for us. So I actually didn't appreciate too much my grandmother's cooking until I was a little bit older, that I was actually more interested of her cooking and actually curious and asking her like, what do you put in this that's so good?
Currently, I'm working mostly as a food photographer and I shoot for restaurants, whether it's a menu shoot or a lifestyle. I do have a personal project that I started and I'm focusing on taking environmental portraits of chefs and line cooks, prep people in the kitchen, and I want to tell their stories through how their life transformed through COVID.
So restaurants in Europe are definitely harder. They're way more busier than any restaurants, I think, like in any cities. But it was something that I wanted to pursue. If you want to be an actor, you go to Hollywood. If you want to be a chef, you come to New York. It was a challenge, but it was something that I was actually looking forward to it.
Pre-pandemic, my typical day as a food photographer would be going to my assignments. It'd be either in a studio or in a restaurant, or if we shoot on location somewhere outside. And then I would come home and edit everything from my home office, check my emails and see what I have for the next couple of days. So with COVID, we had to adapt and do things a little bit differently. Some of the clients were able to send us either the product home or they were able to give us directions good enough so we can shoot from home.
I always wanted to do pop-up dinners. So I saw the opportunity, now I had the time, which is something that I didn't have before. The idea came up to do like a small pop-up dinners where I just host 2 to 3, 4, no more than 4 people, something very intimate. I feel that it's almost kind of like a show, let's say, because you're eating and you're watching this dishes being created right in front of your eyes. So the creation from the menu, I'll say a big part is like seasonal. So for me, it's very important to cook with products that are in season. When you're working in a restaurant, you have this type of concept that you have to follow. But then here, I basically don't have any rules. I just like dishes that really showcase the seasonal product, and they're very balanced dishes. In my old apartment, I used to have this big dinner table, and when we moved to this new space, I was holding on to it, thinking that I was gonna do something about it, but then I ended up selling it, and I just thought, why don't I just, instead of the tables, use the countertop in the kitchen? And that's where the whole idea actually of the name of the countertop got to my mind. This is where everything happens. I cook in the countertop, people eat in their countertop, they get served in the countertop. Everybody seems to enjoy it very, very much. It's a completely different experience, more intimate, more personal, I feel.
I think one of the defining moments for me to specialize in food photography was actually not the time when I was a food photographer, but rather when I was working in a restaurant. I never had experience of working in restaurants before I came to the US, so it was all new to me. And I had a little bit of an accent, maybe a lot of an accent, and I've had a very mean group of people who were trying to teach me how to say cantaloupe. And it made me a little bit embarrassed. So I went down to the kitchen and I started crying. The chef in the restaurant actually came up to me and asked me what happened, and I knew he was very, very mad. So he went upstairs and told the restaurant that they had to leave. And I thought that was a very nice moment. They were the first people who kind of had my back, and this is my way of kind of paying back.
In the future, since everything is starting to open up, I will also like to do bigger scales, pop-up dinners. I feel like it's something very personal for me. You know, I'm basically welcoming these people into my home and, you know, and cooking for them in a almost like a family way, you know, to do it, but, you know, just like with elegant presentations, let's say.
My advice to freelance photographers during COVID would be try to stay humble, try to help people, try to help your clients, and be there for each other. In the future, I'm hoping to continue working on the project that I started, which is documenting life of the restaurant industry and people who make the industry so special.